The BRICS nations having their own Bretton Woods agreement would be catastrophic for the United States dollar and the overall economy. For those of you who don't know about Bretton Woods, it was the agreement after World War II where we saw the world's reserve currency shift from the British pound to the United States dollar, and right now that's still taking place. And since the Bretton Woods agreement, the US dollar has had hegemony over the entire world economy. The majority of the world's debt is issued in dollars, and the vast majority of all world trade is conducted in the same currency. And whenever there's a great deal of economic uncertainty on the planet, the major powers and financial firms flock to the reserve currency, which again is our dollar. If the BRICS nations are able to escape this agreement and have their own currency that they all agree to trade and hold in reserve, then that turns everything upside down. These countries represent 35% of the world's total economic output, and because the BRICS cooperative does include India and China, they have the largest population, much larger than the G7, over 40% of the world's population to be exact, 3.3 billion people. Each of these countries have exhibited a lot of resentment towards how the United States manages the power of its dollar, how much is circulated, and how it can manipulate the world markets. And the most unfair advantage is that anywhere in the world, if India or Brazil or any other country wants to produce $100 of value, they actually have to generate $100 of work. But the United States, if they want to produce $100 of value, they literally just need to print the money. What's made worse is that the strength of the dollar keeps going up. The DXY is at almost 110, which means anything that has to be purchased in dollars is much pricier for countries like China, India, Brazil, Japan. And some people are saying the easy solution is to just use the Chinese yuan or make their own currency. But there's just one little problem. Getting these countries to give up their economic sovereignty with China as their leader is like expecting a starving tiger to just sit nicely with a cow and not eat it. There's nowhere near enough mutual trust amongst these countries to agree upon one currency or put themselves under someone else's. If there was a currency that is backed by gold and other commodities, guess what would happen? Large financial firms would just buy hundreds of billions of dollars of said currency and then exchange those currencies for the commodities or the gold. Having any precious material backed currency this day and age is just inviting hyperinflation. And if the Chinese yuan was agreed to be the BRICS reserve currency, then China would lose something very important: control. Right now, the world foreign exchange reserves of Chinese yuan is just 2.5% as opposed to the US dollar at 59.1, and less than 4% of the Chinese yuan is allowed to leave the country. The reason being is the Chinese government heavily manipulates their currency to maintain export and import measures. If the Chinese government wants the value of their yuan to go up, they just sell dollars for it, and if they want the value to go down, they sell yuan for dollars. It means that only the Chinese government can alter the value of the Chinese yuan. If too much of their currency starts leaving the country and starts getting traded in England, the United States, or the Eurozone, that means they no longer have control of the value of their yuan, and the West can start manipulating China's own currency against it. The worst case being that the Chinese government would no longer be able to keep the value of their yuan very low, and we would see a huge skyrocketing of the currency, which would mean imports become much more expensive worldwide of China's goods, and they suffer an even greater depression than they're going through right now. The Chinese government would also go bankrupt because it would be much more difficult to pay their debts that they've issued internally and externally. America, on the other hand, doesn't have anywhere near the strictness of control since they allow over half of their currency to be exchanged abroad. The Federal Reserve and the US government do manipulate and maintain a certain value for the dollar, but they allow it to cooperate more with the free market than any authoritarian regime. That gives the overall economic world a better feeling of assurance, knowing that the world's main currency is not in the sole control of just one man, unlike what would happen if China was at the helm. And even though the United States does make very stupid mistakes like the Vietnam War, Iraq, or how we handled Afghanistan, we are still considered to be a much more rational actor than other alternative economies, minus the Eurozone, but they're a museum. The idea of the BRICS nations having their own Bretton Woods seems to have come from Professor Yanis Varoufakis, and I just think he's heavily mistaken or he's voluntarily omitting key details. I am the Geo Hussar. Follow me everywhere. Thanks for watching.